Hello and welcome or welcome back to Flosstube with the Stitching Owl. I am truly excited to be here chatting with you today. 2024 has come in and I have been stitching. I have had the last 2 weeks off from my studio and that has allowed me some time for family and time for stitching. Now this weekend I did end up having some marking to expedite for the conservatory, so unfortunately my Saturday of fully finishing went quickly out the window as I marked. So I don't have as many fully finished to show you today, but I think I made great progress with other things to compensate. I've had a very hard time trying to figure out how to organize today's video because it doesn't quite fit together in the same categories as usual. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my first fully finish of 2024. Now it is from the 1 Dozen Quakers. So you'll remember that this is a Rosewood Manor pattern and that AJ and Shelia of the Sunshine Stitchers are hosting a Bake Me a Quaker Sal. Now it has begun already. It began at the beginning of, actually I think it began in December. Yes, it began in December because they wanted to provide a 13-month option for doing this stitch along so that if you had a particularly tricky month, you didn't have to keep up because they had built in a 13th month for a 1 dozen or 12 Quaker pattern. Now, I realize that means that we're 5 weeks or so into this. It is not too late to join us. We are having a lot of fun. The Sunshine Stitchers have a wonderful Facebook page where people are posting on a regular basis. And the first Friday of each month is a Zoom meeting where we just get to stitch together. Now, I happened to not be able to attend this past Friday. I wish I had been able to. It just wasn't in the cards, but I will make sure that I am available for the next one because the first one in December was so much fun to get to know the gals. So, what does mine look like? Well, this is the second one. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this down for a moment and I'm going to show you on the main pattern. This one right here is the one I'm using this month, but you'll notice that I didn't end up putting the outer border around it. Now this is one that many people have been stitching already. So this is what it looks like without the border and with 2 tones. So what I did was, this is a straight sulky thread, a turquoise color. I love turquoise, you know. And then this is a variegated turquoise color. And then, of course, Karen beaded. So I used some gold beads here. And then here, instead of stitching these shapes, I did full cross stitches within the beads to finish off that pattern. So I'm quite happy with this. The back of it was a little paisley. It is ready to go out in a Send a Smile. I am working on that and I have 2 people in mind for the next couple of weeks and send out. So I think you know who you are. Let me see. Next topic is a topic that is coming up an awful lot in Flosstube 12 by 12 NYE. So Kia B of Kia B Quilts established a few years ago the idea of on New Year's Eve starting 12 different projects, one per hour from noon hour until midnight when you rung in the new year. And then if you were having a year where you didn't want to have a whole lot of starts, you had 12 to work on that were already there. Now, Kia will tell you, and so will everyone that I have come across that did this, when you are starting a pattern, 1 hour does not get you that many stitches. And indeed, Kia is flexible. If you want to do 12 sows, do 12 sows. If you want to do 6 sows, 12 whips, not sows. I suppose you could do 12 sows as well, but that would be keeping you busy. So you can use whips, you can do new pieces. Some people, they just individualized it to what they were doing. You could do like ornaments, for instance, a new ornament each hour. Some people actually decided that 1 hour wasn't comfortable, and so they used the 12 hours, but they did 6 projects, and they switched every 2 hours, and that gave them a little bit more comfort. So Kia was completely comfortable with anything that you wanted to do, and on New Year's Eve, she popped onto Instagram with many of her stitchy friends to have conversation, and I know that those are still available for us to view. Now, the first 2 patterns that I touched on New Year's Eve were whips, and I will show them a little later. I wanted to ensure that in my 12, I still got my stained glass owl in and my winter cardinals in. So those were my first 2, and then I moved to prairie birds. Let's see if I can lay my hands. Okay, this is one of those times where you go, oh, yep, I have it right here. Prairie birds. So there is 10 projects here. They're all quite small. They're about 50 by 50, and to be honest, I thought they would stitch up in a dash, that even though I only had an hour, I would get them, you know, a good third to a half done. No. So they are not really intricate, but they do have stitching to be done, and they won't be done in half an hour at all. So this particular pamphlet does not provide the exact kinds of birds, and there are some cases where I know what the bird is, and other cases where I clearly am not sure whether they use the same bird in 2 of them. So I'm not going to be naming all of the birds because I'm not sure. So what I did on New Year's Eve was, when it came to noon hour, I jumped on a Zoom with Stitching with Sandi. And Sandi, S-A-N-D-I, she hosted a 15-hour Zoom, doing that so that people from all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast could start at noon hour and go all the way through till midnight. She had terrific support from her family, who provided her with the necessary food and such, so that she could do this. Everybody that jumped on, you could come and go as worked for your particular schedule. Everybody had a great time. This was not the first time Sandi had done this, so she wanted to step it up, and she had a few games this year. And of course, you know, Sandi's going to have prizes. So did I win one? No. But that's okay. We all had fun anyway. So I did start each of the 10 prairie birds, so that made 12 projects that day. And I am really happy to say that Amy from Renewing Stitches is joining me on my prairie bird stitch. Now, Amy is fairly new to Flosstube. She has recently posted her Flosstube number 2, but somehow already squeezed in an extra between 1 and 2. She's already sounding very flowing with her presentation, and I have to say her voice just makes me feel like my best friend is talking to me. So I hope you will actually hunt up Renewing Stitches and Amy and give her channel a little bit of love. Now, I do also know that Cathy of the Carolina Cross Stitchers has already completed. She's got a tree with her birds in it already. And as a matter of fact, I had purchased this particular pattern but didn't know about starting it. And when I saw her stitches, I was like, it's going to be sooner rather than later. And I hatched the plan for New Year's Eve. Now, the Carolina Cross Stitcher is a special channel because Cathy's not alone. Her husband Peter is there with her, and he is a fantastic woodworker. He supports what she's doing and is constantly coming up with new things that can be used by stitchers and quilters. He's very skilled, and for me, I'm particularly touched because my father was a woodworker and made many beautiful things for me, and he framed many of my early works. I miss him dearly, and I feel that little bit closer to him when I am watching what Peter is doing with his wood pieces. So they also are near and dear to my heart because they rescued a puppy dog. And Leo pops into their videos on a regular basis and is often very well dressed. So I hope that you will give them a listen and a watch. I am actually thinking that many of you already do, and that you also know that Peter's also a gifted guitarist and will provide music as part of their videos also. So let's see where I ended New Year's Eve with the Prairie birds and view new progress where there is some. I have all 10 patterns on one fat quarter of 32 count Morano lugana, and it's in the color snowcap, and I'm going to have to read this, by Pelstitches Designs. I had never actually heard of them, but when I went to Stitch It Central, and they of course let me just look through their bins of material, I fell in love with this particular piece because they called it snowcaps, but I thought it was very much like a sky as well, and therefore a good background for my birds. So I'm mostly using the called for colors, but I'm going to reserve the right to brighten up berries and flowers if I feel like it just will fit in a little bit more for just to my aesthetic. So what I did was on New Year's Day, I took a picture of each of my bird houses. These aren't bird houses, prairie birds. There we go. I've got lots of birds in my life right now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the first one here. So this is where I ended it at the end of that day. I believe these are bluebirds. And to be honest, this particular one has had a reasonable amount of progress this week. So this is where I am right now. Now, you're not getting a very pretty material. Perhaps, there you can see that it's almost cloud-like. And yes, I understand they're calling it ice caps as well. So I got in my birds. I have some more leaves to put in here, but on this, I do believe that I should be able to finish it very soon. Now my second one is Robins with Nest, and I'll show you that picture. I'm progressing well here. If I'm doing a strand of color on my first one that I'm focused on, and I don't use the whole strand, I immediately go and finish off that strand in the next one because the birdhouses and the leaves continue with the same thread colors. I have to say one of the nice things about this is in total, there's only a moderate amount of colors and they're used throughout all of them, which makes it easy to do one pencil cases or words. I made it as a pencil case and I can just drop my dozen or so colors in and I know that they're there for all of them. I do not put the actual material in any of my folders. What I do is once I've started to stitch, I do not fold the material. I fold the material to show you a bit, but I actually roll it. I'm not as thorough, I think is the word, as the Stitching Mommy, having wrapping paper tubes for each one of them. But I do have a place where I have all of my rolls so that I don't end up with creases that are really hard to get out. So the robins now look like this. So you can see that the nest has come along well. One bird has a head and a chest, no wings. The other bird has a tail. And our baby birds indeed don't have any beaks. So there's still some stitching to do here, but I feel I made good progress on my prairie bird number 2. Now, my prairie bird number 3, I think is some sort of sparrow, but I'm not sure because the sparrows in my neighborhood don't have this color of chest, so we don't know. And as a matter of fact, when I show you, so this is where I was at the end of the New Year's Eve. And here's where I am now. There are no birds. The birds will come in up here. But I did get, you can see that when I had a strand left of green, that I would add some more into this one. So now you can see that what I was doing, if I hold this bottom part up, this is my focus right at the moment. What I'm going to do is work on finishing all of these, and then I will cut along my dotted line, which is just a piece of thread, and I will work on fully finishing those 3, zigzag the new edge, and then start on the next 3. So at this point, there is no progress to show you really in the rest of things. So what I'm going to do is to pop in here the slides that show you where everything was at the end of the day. Now you will find that one of them in the middle is quite sparse indeed, because I really only had 25 minutes on that one. I actually went and had supper with my family, and that made it so that when I came back, a chunk of that time was gone. So, but that's okay, I will catch up. So here is the slideshow of the rest of where I ended with my prairie birds at 12 o'clock on New Year's Eve. And now I'm still not going to break off into my normal headings. I'm going to do Bringo. Now this is my first year for participating in this. Last year I watched, actually the last 2 years I think, I watched people as they had fun with Bringo, and I thought I want to get started on it, but I was not on Facebook at the time. So in order to be able to do Bringo and to be able to do the Bake Me a Quaker Sal, I started going onto Facebook. And it's actually very interesting. I'm finding it very nice to see everybody else's works and pictures. I haven't figured it all out because I'm getting these notifications that people have commented, and I'm sometimes able to find the comments and not always. So I think I'll have to ask one of my children how to use Facebook properly. Right now, I'm considering it good that I actually have figured out how to upload my pictures. So the whole idea behind Bringo is that Carolyn Zook of Zook Stitches and Robin, who I'm sorry, but I don't know her full name, encourage us to make a bingo board, which is 25 boxes, and they give 25 prompts for stitches. And what each of us do during December is we go through and we figure out which stitch we're going to do for each prompt, and we plug them in on those numbers, and then we randomly put those numbers on our 25 box grid and go forward from there. We are hoping to get a bingo. I haven't heard that anyone has yet. I know I've got 3 in a row 2 ways, but I remember last year the Stitching Mommy had like 4 in a row multiple ways, and she couldn't get a bingo no matter what. So it took quite a while until like that last week for them to suddenly come, and then she had them constantly. So it's all in fun, and I think it is absolutely fabulous. So when you are filling in your patterns, they can be a work in progress already, or they can be something completely new. I thought that was fabulous. Now I am discovering that if you do a whole bunch of new things, you suddenly have a whole bunch more whips. So yes, wow. And I have to say that I know that I start back to work next week, and I don't have it possible to do both this and the acrostic. That is the Magazine Monthly Challenge, which is the Magazine Monthly Cross Stitch Challenge is the Facebook group that is popping this on. So I'm not doing both of these this month because I wouldn't be able to do them justice. I'm just doing Bringo, and next month I will try the acrostic for the first time. So January 1, what was the prompt? It was pattern of your choice. Okay, that was a fabulous way to start January. So the Stitching Owl did the owl. And here I am. You can see my goal this month was, past 2 weeks, I wanted to get a feather in, and I wanted to get to the bottom. I wasn't sure if I could do both, but I did. So here I've got a couple of feathers completely done. There's a few stitches missing from each of these, but there are feathers starting. And when I go all the way here, look at that. That is the bottom corner, and I have started to pull my marks of my 10 stitch gridding over there. Aren't those colors glorious? There is still a fair amount of blue. What I'm doing right now is I balance my confetti stitching with my block stitching so that I don't get either bored or overwhelmed. Now, the stitching owl is very, very fortunate. Before Christmas, I had given my husband the ever tote bag of artsy housewife patterns and some Roxy Floss Floss, and said, this is what I want for Christmas. Yes, exactly the way Laura does it with Stitching by the Shore. And I would be perfectly happy with just that, but then he said he wanted to give me something. So I said, well, I'd like to use Pattern Keeper. So many people have said it's a game changer, and I'm wondering about it. And of course, he goes online and goes, gee, this is only like a $9 pattern. And I said, yes, that's true, but it doesn't run on an iPad. And while I do know that there are other options, I really wanted Pattern Keeper. So I thought he might give me his old tablet and I could give him a new tablet, but no, he's keeping his tablet and he bought me a new tablet. So I've got a tablet that I can use my Pattern Keeper on and my iPad to watch my Flosstube while I'm doing this. Now this one can do split screen so that I can see my pattern and watch Flosstube at the same time, but I happen to like having the big screen full of pattern, so I was indeed spoiled this year. Now, for those of you who said to me, it's a game changer, you are absolutely right. When you have a confetti moment and you tap that symbol, there's no question as to which number of floss it is, even if that symbol looks a little bit like another symbol. It is clear which number you're supposed to use. And it lights up all of the stitches that are that number, so that if you have confetti stitches, you can actually create a path, and instead of just doing one and putting it away until the next time you come across it and bump into it, you can easily see a path of 5 or 10 of these confetti moments, so that you're moving quicker. So I am truly impressed with Pattern Keeper. Now, the question is, what do the numbers say? Well, as of this morning, my stitch count is 47,594, which means it's 29.7% done. So I'm closing in on a third. I don't know whether I'll get there for next time or not, but it is really cool to be able to see that. Now, I think it might be kind of daunting in the beginning to see that you're 0.02 into a big stitch, but right now it is really cool to watch that and see that number get higher. So I am very, very pleased with my stained glass owl. Sharova Creations have many, many beautiful patterns on Etsy, so they're definitely worth a quick look. Now, January 2, the prompt was a pattern that intimidates you. And so the question is, what did the owl pick? Well, I picked my Jardin Prive au Fil de Nichoirs, the birdhouses, because it is the first time I'm doing 28 count even weave 1/1. And I'm going to say it is not difficult, but it is not fast. You really do have to do poke and stab. You can't do any sewing method and have each stitch lay correctly. So this the material that I'm using is, I just dropped some stuff. Panatone. I purchased this at Evertote. It is a lovely material. Now, I was able to get the December bird done. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hold up my 3 birdhouses. So this one over here That was October. Okay, so you can see by the pumpkin. November was the owl. And December, look at that birdhouse. Is that not the cutest idea? I mean, really, genius idea for making the birdhouse clearly reference Santa Claus. So if I put my hand up next to this, you will see how petite these are. I will easily be able to make these into ornaments. One moment. There we go. I needed to pick up. So that was day 2, January the 2nd. And now we go to January the 3rd, and the prompt was something sparkly. Well, you've already seen what I did that day. I put the beads into my 1 Dozen Quakers by Rosewood Manor ornament. Now, it did not take me an hour, nor were there 100 beads on this. So in order to fulfill this, I actually finished the ornament that day so that I had used enough time. I know at the Zoom, Sandi was also doing ornaments, and she said, how long does it take you to do an ornament if you're doing that many and giving that many away? And I'm like, well, it depends. This particular one, it took, I did all of the stitching one day, and I did the beading and the finishing the next day. So in 48 hours, I had a completed ornament. That is not always possible, but I am finding these Quakers, they're fun. I'm a mathematical person, and the music and the math in me makes me look at the pattern and go, what is the easiest way to go through the pattern without having to break thread a lot? And it really is, it's a fun challenge. It's a puzzler, and I find that it doesn't take me long to figure it out. And then because my plan is to make 3 or 4 of each of these Quakers per month, because I want to do Send a Smiles, I'll be able to get them done. They are very, very doable. Yes. Okay. So now that brings us to January 4th, and it says something that will be a gift. I put in something specifically vague. I said waxing moon ornament. I have a lot of waxing moon design patterns. Their littles, and that's what they call them, the little series, are absolutely adorable. And again, for the most part, they stitch up relatively quickly. Now, I will say, when I had those barns, the barn trio, the barns were solid stitching and took a while. So here is my waxing moon winter littles. They're really quite adorable. They're all around 46 by 46, I believe. And I decided, of course, I'm going to do the owl. So that day, I got most of the outside frame done, and I got the limb of the tree, and I have since worked on this. So I finished the outside, and I added a couple of snowflakes. Now, I have purposefully left this one without trying to put in the owl, because there's going to be another moment on Bringo where there's a waxing moon ornament, and I want to use that day to stitch my owl. So I am leaving it as a whip on purpose instead of finishing it to send it away immediately. Now I am stitching that one on 32 count Stormy Night lugana with 2 strands of DMC over 2 threads. most of the colors, they're close. They don't always match. I try not to steal floss from active big whips in order to do my smalls. I just sort of make it work. So, and sometimes I make my smalls with the sulky. So these ones I'm doing the DMC. And January 5th, the prompt says, now I'm going to have to read this, something that you were inspired to start because of the way you saw it finished. For me, I said it was the ATC cards. In October, Laura of Stitching by the Shore had an ATC challenge of autumn where you made 2.5 by 3.5 inch cards and sent them to her on the theme of autumn. And then she divided them up, traded them around, and a month later we got our trades in the mail. It was absolutely delightful. So she didn't know how many she was going to get. She had almost 100. It might even have reached 100. And she has a video of the ATC cards for you to actually enjoy. They were completed in many different ways. And I was inspired by how many different ways you could finish an ATC card. So what I did was I had just the day before done this and had this border in my head. So I went, okay, let's see how many of those little bumps we need to do in order to make 2.5 by 3.5. So I ended up with this. Actually, I think that's upside down. There we go. And I improvised snowflakes, and I ensured that just like in real life, no two snowflakes are the same. Some of them have French nuts. I did not put beading on this purely because a lot of people put their ATC cards into these sleeves that are used for like baseball cards, and I wasn't sure if beads would make it cumbersome to get them in and out and cause problems. So I'm purposely making these flatter and not beading them. But there we go with this was one day's work. It was a couple of hours. It wasn't just 1 hour, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm planning on doing another one. I traded 2 the last time, and I'd like to do the same this time. So that was January 5th, and thank you to Laura for the inspiration. January 6th was something to take on vacation. Now, everybody has their own idea of what they want to do on their vacation. Some people want to take the biggest thing they've got because they've got time to sit and do it. And I myself want to take a project with as few different colors of floss as possible so that I can't end up with tangles and problems of losing things when I'm not at home. So I decided to go monochromatic, which for me means a modern folk embroidery piece, and I'm doing Under the Stars. Now, I am doing this on lugana, a Blue Moon 32 count lugana. I had to look it up. And again, I purchased it at Stitch It Central. And on this, I am using yellow variegated sulky thread. It's 12-weight thread, so you only need to use 1 strand in order to get good coverage. Now, before Christmas, I had a period of time where I was doing heavy marking where I didn't get as many stitches in, so I made sure I got some stitching done. And look at this. I got all of this done in the last 2 weeks. Now, I'll admit that some days I didn't stop myself at 2 threads. I actually put in 3. But if I just pop that up closer, that's the area that I was working on. In here will be a bigger design. I can't wait to get to it. So I'm very, very happy with my progress, and I will go back to doing my 2 strands a day now that I feel like I've balanced out that period of time where it didn't get as much attention. So that was call number 6. Call number 7 was something from a magazine. That's today's. And I got up today and I stitched it already. So my before picture for the magazine monthly challenge is just empty. I had nothing on my piece of material. And my after is going to be a Christmas ornament out of, this is the 2021 Just Cross Stitch Ornament Special for Christmas. Now, the one that I chose was this one right here. The designer is Giulia Manfredini from Giulia Punti Antici. I will put in the description below the website for that particular designer. Now, one of the reasons that I picked this was that there was only a couple of colors in it, and the other reason I could beat it. Now, at this moment, I was able to get the stitching part done this morning using variegated blue thread of sulky. So again, that's 12 weight using 1 strand. This is still the 32 count Stormy Night. I just have this random shaped piece of material that I'm just using up. I find that it's a nice background. And now tomorrow I will go in and figure out some spots for beading. I do have some silver sulky thread that I have the option of doing some of the other spots that she has as stitches, as silver stitches, or deciding on beads. In some cases, I'm not intending to put something on every spot that the original designer has, and in other times I add. So again, each one of my ornaments will be different, and this one will soon be popped into the Send a Smile program. By the time we get together again, Send a Smiles will have gone out. And yes, there we go. So now, while we're on the topic of Christmas, I just wanted to alert you that there are some Flosstubers that are saying we need to keep Christmas alive in our heart all year round. And that one of the ways of doing that is to stitch Christmas at all times. Now, I realize that some people are definitely seasonal stitchers and not interested in stitching Christmas all year long. But for those of us that want to, we have a couple of options. So the Peacock Stitcher is joining with Allison from Cross Stitch the Globe to host X-Stitch Xmas 365 Sal. Now it's a little ironic. They use 365 because that's how many days are in a year, but this year there's really 366 because it's a leap year. But if they just put it at 365, they can keep this Sal going for more years. So I was really pleased. I initially heard it when I was watching the Peacock Stitchers video, and I asked to join in the fun, and she immediately messaged back, of course. Now, later that same day, because I'm out of my studio, so I have lots of time for Flosstube, it's been joyous, I was watching the Stitching Bunny, and she felt likewise that she had all of these beautiful Christmas patterns, and there was no way that if she started like the second week of November that she was ever going to finish everything she wanted to. So she wanted to stitch Christmas each month and have goals. So she is doing 12 Merry Month Sal to encourage Christmas stitching. So if you are wanting, like, I'm going to do at least one Christmas ornament per month. And I will post them on Instagram, and then I'm going to tag all 3, Stitching Bunny, Cross Stitch the Globe, and Peacock Stitcher, so that they all can see that I am participating in their sale. And anybody that would like to do that is encouraged to. And if you want to just do a Christmas something or other on occasion, post when you have it. Okay, I want to take a moment for an announcement, and I'm so excited. So here we go. In an email, I reached out to Caroline of Evertote, who's here in London, and mentioned to her that I had reached 500 subscribers on Christmas Eve and that I wanted to do a giveaway. Could I work with her to make it possible for an Evertote? And she got back and she was completely on board. I even think she offered to provide it, but I'm like, I want to support you, so we'll have to discuss how this is all working out. But so in honor of reaching 500 subscribers, I am having a $50 gift certificate giveaway to Evertote. And I thank Caroline and crew so much for making this possible. If you want to be part of this, you must be willing in 2 weeks' time, if you're the one chosen, to provide me with your full name, not your YouTube name, and your email address so that we can do an electronic gift certificate. And then you can do floss. One of the things that I was so happy to do is to tell you that, you know what, a lot of people had a great deal of fun doing the Advent Mystery Stitch Along 2023. They are going to do it 2024, and yes, you guessed it, Jacob already has the pattern done. The sign-ups for this will begin in February, so the timing is perfect if you want to use this gift certificate towards the price of that stitch along. So the question is, what do I want you to do? I want you to comment below, and I want you to tell me what project was your first stitch in 2024. I ask again, we want everybody to be 18 or over, and for you to avoid any words that might alert the bots about things. So no prize giveaway, things like that. Just tell me my New Year's first stitch was. You're certainly welcome to give more comments than that, but that is where we are going. So as you're watching your Flosstube, please know that Caroline has 2 different channels that she's running. One is Evertote, Notes from the Workshop, and the other is Off the Grid Needle Arts. So we have lots of wonderful moments with Caroline, and she shows us a number of the Evertote materials that we could choose from, and she's got a lovely website for you to consult. So I encourage you to watch and be a subscriber to her channels. And again, thank you, Caroline. Now I'm going to take a moment and do something I'm going to call Awesome Etsy Moments. This is not necessarily going to be a regular moment for the owl, but 2 things happened. Number 1, when I got my new tablet, I was aware that when I got my pattern for my stained glass owl, I was completely convinced that I would never ever do anything other than paper, so I did not save the link to Pattern Keeper. I thought I was going to have to buy the pattern again in order to get it, but on the off chance I actually did a direct message to Sharova Creations and explained my situation. And within minutes, they had sent me the link so that I could have the Pattern Keeper version for the stitching owl, for my stained glass owl. And they didn't have to do that. It was on me that I hadn't kept it. But they did, and I appreciate it. So it was a wonderful Etsy moment. The other Etsy moment that was completely awesome, you all know that I've been doing some pattern testing for instant cross stitch. Now, I have periodically emailed them a picture of what I've been doing, but they actually DM'd me on Instagram and clarified that they have been following me through my videos. And not only were they watching to see what my progress was, they were listening to my comments and they were taking them to heart. I mentioned the last time that this particular picture is as detailed as many of the spots in a Heaven and Earth design and has as much confetti stitching as those, and that it would be a situation that would be a quicker stitch if it was in Pattern Keeper. And I thought that the people that enjoy that kind of stitch, they would be used to using something like Pattern Keeper or Markup XP. That's another one that you can use. And Good Notes is another one. So I am really impressed that they care enough to actually follow me in order to see what my response is to their pattern, and I thank you. So I'm going to show you where I am now. My goal this particular 2 weeks was, number one, to get some more cardinals in the foreground, and number two, to get down to pages 4 and 5. And I achieved both of those things. Now you can actually see that it's cardinals and that this splash of color would be a cardinal flying away. Previously, it was a little bit unclear what my splashes of red were. I'm just going to go closer. The other nice thing about instant cross stitch, once I got into this and realized how detailed this was, it became pretty clear it wasn't going to be a 6 to 8 week project, and they have released me from that commitment. Take the time you need, and guess what? They are trying to put a pattern into Pattern Keeper and will have me look at it, so that going forward that could be an option for them. So I just think that's a wonderful Etsy moment. Now, I have a question for you, and I would love for your input. So another thing to put in your comments. When you get designs and you have the list of colors needed to purchase for the pattern, what order do you prefer to have the colors listed in? Do you want them listed in order of the amount of stitches? For instance, the highest number for stitches is the 3371 here, and it's got almost a third of the stitches for the whole pattern will be that color. There's more of it at the bottom as well. And so it's listed first, and then it's going in descending order all the way through so that you can clearly see which colors are used the most and which colors are used the least. And I do know that some people really love that, because the colors that only have 20 or less stitches, for instance, they might go, I'm going to just use something from stash. Or would you prefer to have your colors listed DMC in numerical order from lowest to highest? If it is non-DMC, would it be alphabetical? so that when you're at the cross-stitch shops or online, it's easier to find the numbers and color names. So if you could answer that question as well, I will take a tally of the different answers and provide that information to the lovely people at Instant Cross Stitch who are listening. This is your moment to impact a designer. So I encourage you to help me with that. Now, I want to thank Uplift Stitches for positively uplifting shout out. This Flosstube is a lovely husband and wife team, and their banter is absolutely lovely. They have a wide range of stitches, so they're doing something that you'll enjoy watching. And they also like to talk about board games that they've experienced, and it seems that they've experienced a lot of different board games. They can tell you details. So if that's an interest of you, I encourage you to look them up. One of the things that I liked about what they had done is 12 days of snow friends. So there are some people that would feel like doing 12 starts on a single day would be overwhelming. And as such, they might just not do it. But then they might want to still do 12 starts. So in this case, they did 12 days, one project per day, and they created a theme, Snow Friends. So there was snowmen and all sorts of things in here, and they were all adorable. And there was a more substantial start on each project because it was a day instead of an hour. So there was further comfort with it. It was a fabulous idea and something that maybe some of you might try out next year. So well done. I hope you will give Uplift Stitches a watch. I would also like to thank the Sun City Stitchers. Let's see if I can find... Yes, okay. So the Sun City Stitchers are Carlene and Marlene. They are twins who are avid stitchers. They have definitely been in the education industry for years, I believe, and I'm so sorry, but I don't remember whether it's Carlene or Marlene that is fully retired while the other one is doing tutoring. But they have lots of stitching time, and they will have themes like a fancy lady per month. They're doing a gigantic nativity scene. When I asked them a question about did they have the special frame for the nativity scene, they said, well, this is actually our second time. The first time we got that frame, but the second time we're going to do it differently, and we're going to put them up all individually. And I'm like, that's a massive, like, it's a BAP. And they're just doing such beautiful work. So Sun City Stitchers, they do a giveaway on a regular basis. And what they do is they just choose from amongst the people that have left comments. And the Stitching Owl was announced. And I was like, whoa, okay. So I got a cute Turkey Lurkey shelf sitter from Faithworks Designs. So it's going to be a 3-dimensional stitch, and I think I know who to do this for. So it's going to be fun to figure this one out. It looks like it is full coverage. So thank you to Carlene and Marlene. I hope again that the Sun City Stitchers would be somebody that you're watching. They post every second week, just like myself. They are a funny pair. They decorate each other's houses. They stitch during football games. They associate specific patterns to football teams so that if a team wins more, they get more stitches. Like, there's just so much fun when you're watching them. So they even have the occasional feline moment when their Mickey cat just walks past. Now, 2014 was long gone. Oh dear. 2024 is a special year. There are people turning 50. Now, we have already known about Michelle from Penny's Daughter Chairs, who started her 50 patterns in a year in the fall when her birthday was. And I started doing it at the beginning of November. And at the present time, I've got 15 starts since the beginning of November. Remembering that when I do this, I only count things like 1 dozen Quakers once. Even if I end up with 20 ornaments out of it, I'm not counting that as 20 starts. It's one pattern. So she's having fun with her 50. Another person turning 50 is Somi Sarah in Ireland. And before Christmas, I sent ornaments to Sarah, which she showed on her Flosstube, and she spoke of me ever so nicely. And then Sarah sent me a beautiful thank you card. When I send you things, you don't have to thank me. I'm actually thanking you for watching me and for making me smile with your Flosstubes. So thank you notes are not required, but it was lovely to have that surprise, Sarah. Now, she's going to be doing her 50 new starts in 2024, so we'll need to watch her next video, which will probably be coming along very soon, probably once Charlotte's back at school. And she'll explain her hashtag and how that all works. So I've started my list since the beginning of January, and I've got a couple of names on that list already. Now there's one more surprise. Carolyn of Evertoad is turning 50 as well. And in her notes from the workshop, she was chattering about trying to decide how to do the 50 with crafting in general. So I think we are going to find that there might be some knitting, for instance, included in her 50 projects, and she might choose to do some starts and some finishes and still add them up to 50. Well, let's watch her next time and find out what the decision is. Now, I am doing 24 in 2024, and that is 24 different ornament designers in 2024, understanding that there are times that I'm going to put down a designer who has designed a full pattern, and I've just taken 3 inches out of it to make an ornament. I still feel that I want to recognize them as a designer and to share with you how I do my ornaments. So I have got 4 entries so far on that, and I will at some point actually make those available. Not sure how. I will show you my lists on Flosstube when there is more to show you than 1 or 2 names, especially when the 1 or 2 names are the same on each list. Okay, we've got to a moment for music. The piece that you're going to hear today, I learned in elementary school, and it is called The Prelude in D-Flat by Reinhold Glier. Now, Glier was born in the late Romantic period and lived into the 20th century. He was actually born in the Ukraine and died in Moscow. He's considered a Soviet composer. His compositions are full of emotion. He was a conductor. He was a teacher at a conservatory. He was also a collector of folk music and glorified in traveling to find authenticity in music. So I realized that his name is not a household name, but I think you'll enjoy the Prelude in D-Flat. And then just one more thing, I wanted to show you something that was a cross stitch that was presented to me a number of years ago by a student. I've had a number of students who have been cross stitchers and parents of students who've cross stitched their way through sitting through lessons. Now this particular young lady is a highly qualified musician. She's also a nurse practitioner. And earlier in her life, she went to South America, learned how to do medicine in Spanish so that she could help the people. She spent years there, I believe it was 3 years, and she still goes down periodically. She used her music on weekends to help people to become comfortable with her. And she made it, the actual stitch is fairly simple, but look, just look at that frame. It is from South America. So I've had this up in my studio. Let's see if I can get this as my snapshot for the video. I've had this up in my studio for years now, and I will treasure it always. I don't know that this was actually meant to be anything other than a wreath, but I hope that you can see that you can make anything into a frame almost. And so it is that it's now time to say goodbye. I will see you in 2 weeks. I hope to see lots of comments. Remembering we've got 2 things we're thinking about: what our first stitch is in order to be in for the Evertote giveaway, and to help our friends at Instant Cross Stitch, let me know what order you like to have your colors listed in on your patterns. And feel free to say, I like to actually have it both ways. It adds to the job and space, but you might want it both ways. So let's go forward with needle and thread to make something beautiful and make ourselves happy. Goodbye for now.